The sun bleeds orange across the Taklamakan, and a lone trader stands motionless on a high dune, an old silk map trembling in his hands. His name is Arslan, a young caravan guide born in Kashgar, the last of a merchant family scattered by war, famine, and distance. Tonight, as dusk settles over the sand, he remembers his mother's voice and the scent of cardamom drifting through her kitchen long ago. He remembers his father's calloused hands, tracing trade routes across brittle parchment by the light of a single oil lamp. The map before him is not new. It is decades old, inherited, its ink faded like memory itself grown thin with time. Somewhere beyond these dunes lie the cities his ancestors once called home: Kashgar, Bukhara, and Samarkand, jewels strung along a road of silk and spice. Arslan does not know if he will ever see his scattered family again, as caravans grow fewer with each passing season. Yet he carries their story forward, one slow step at a time, into the fading amber light of the desert evening. This is the story of the Silk Road, not of kings and conquests, but of ordinary people who carried the world upon their backs. Behind him, the last light drains from the sky, and somewhere in that darkness, the desert seems to hold its breath, waiting. For nearly 2,000 years, camel caravans had crossed these very sands, linking the markets of China to the courts of Persia and Europe. Silk, spice, jade, and paper moved west. Wool, glass, silver, and horses moved east, binding distant empires in an unbroken chain of trade. By the 19th century, that chain was fraying, as steamships and new railways began stealing trade from the old desert paths. Yet in cities like Kashgar, the rhythm of caravan life still pulsed strong, stubborn against the slow tide of change sweeping the world. Traders like Arslan's father had once guided 50 camels, laden with silk bolts, across mountain passes, choked with snow and wind. Now, only a handful of merchants remained willing to risk the journey, and fewer still who remembered why the road mattered at all. Arslan folds the map carefully, tucking it inside his coat, and turns his gaze toward the mountains that guard the western horizon. Tomorrow, he will set out with the last caravan of the season, following footsteps worn into stone by 1,000 years of travelers. He wonders quietly whether the road itself remembers every trader who has ever crossed it, or whether memory belongs only to the living. Kashgar wakes slowly under a pale morning sky, its clay walls glowing gold as the first light spills across flat rooftops. Merchants unroll woven carpets in the great bazaar, calling out prices in Uyghur, Persian, and broken Mandarin all at once. The air fills with the scent of cumin, dried apricots, and fresh naan baking in clay ovens along the narrow lanes. Arslan walks past stalls piled high with bolts of shimmering silk, each thread a memory of hands he can no longer touch. An old spice trader recognizes him, nodding solemnly, remembering the family that once ran the largest caravanserai in the city. Camels kneel in the courtyard, their loads of tea bricks and silk bundled tight, ready for the long road west toward Bukhara. Arslan checks the ropes on his own modest cargo, a mixture of silk thread and precious lapis lazuli, bound for distant markets. As the muezzin's call drifts over the rooftops, the caravan master signals departure, and the long procession begins its slow march. Arslan glances once more at the city walls, wondering if he will ever walk these familiar streets as a whole family again. Beyond Kashgar's walls, the land turns harsh and endless, a sea of pale dunes stretching toward a shimmering, merciless horizon. The caravan moves in silence for hours, each camel's steady rhythm the only sound against the vast desert quiet. At night, the travelers gather around small fires, sharing dried fruit and stories of the road's many dangers and legends. Arslan listens to an elder speak of sandstorms that swallowed entire caravans whole, leaving nothing but bones beneath the dunes. He thinks again of his family, wondering if they, too, once sat beneath these same indifferent, glittering stars. Sleep comes slowly, haunted by memories of a home he left behind, and uncertain of a future he cannot yet see. Dawn breaks cold and sharp, and the caravan rises stiffly, pressing onward through winds that bite at exposed skin and cracked lips. Days blur into weeks as mountains rise ahead, the treacherous passes that guard the road toward the fabled city of Bukhara. Snow dusts the higher trails, and the caravan moves carefully, aware that one misstep could mean losing everything they carry. Bukhara rises from the plain like a mirage, its turquoise domes catching the afternoon sun in brilliant, dazzling light. Here, madrasas and minarets stand beside crowded bazaars, where scholars and merchants mingle beneath carved wooden archways centuries old. Arslan enters the city through the great gate, his caravan weary but grateful for water, shade, and solid ground beneath their feet. In the marketplace, dyed silks hang in every color imaginable, while spice merchants weigh saffron and pepper on brass scales. He trades a portion of his silk for indigo dye and dried fruit, following customs his father once taught him patiently. An old bookseller offers him tea, speaking of the days when Bukhara's libraries drew travelers from as far as Andalusia and Cathay. Arslan lingers by the Kalyan minaret at dusk, remembering his mother once described its silhouette from a story told in childhood. As night falls, he sleeps within a caravanserai's cool stone walls, grateful for shelter, however briefly, from the endless open road. In his dreams, he sees his mother's face again, faint and gentle, framed by lantern light in a home long since gone. Samarkand greets the caravan with the golden glow of the Registan, its 3 grand madrasas rising like guardians of the plain. Arslan walks beneath towering archways covered in blue and turquoise tile, marveling at artistry unchanged for hundreds of years. The market here overflows with silk brocade, dried melons, and spices carried from lands as distant as India and Arabia. He meets a fellow trader who once knew his father, sharing stories of caravans long past and roads now rarely traveled. For a moment, surrounded by strangers who remember his family's name, Arslan feels less alone beneath this ancient, painted sky. He sells the last of his silk thread, earning enough silver to sustain the return journey through the mountains once more. As twilight settles over Samarkand's domes, Arslan climbs a quiet rooftop, watching the sun sink behind minarets, glowing amber and rose. He unrolls the old silk map once more, tracing the routes his family walked, feeling their presence in every faded line. For the first time since leaving Kashgar, Arslan does not feel entirely alone beneath the vast, darkening Central Asian sky. By the century's end, railways crept steadily across Asia, and steamships carried goods faster than any camel caravan ever could. One by one, the great caravanserais fell quiet, their courtyards empty of the merchants who once filled them with noise and color. Kashgar, Bukhara, and Samarkand endured, yet the golden age of silk and spice slowly faded into memory and legend. Arslan, now older, understands that he belongs to the last generation who will know this road as his ancestors knew it. Still, he chooses to walk it once more, honoring a history that machines and iron rails could never fully erase. The wind carries dust across empty stretches where 1,000 caravans once passed, leaving only footprints and half-remembered songs. Yet in every bazaar, every dyed silk thread, every pinch of saffron, the spirit of that ancient road quietly survives. History, Arslan realizes, is not only carried in books, but in the hands of those who keep on walking forward. And so, with the map folded gently in his coat, he turns his face once more toward the coming dawn. Arslan returns at last to Kashgar, the silk map worn softer now from months of travel and quiet remembrance. He never finds his scattered family, but he carries their memory in every mile he has crossed and every story he now tells. In the years that follow, he shares his father's roots with a new generation of traders eager to keep the road alive. The Silk Road, once a bridge between empires, becomes something quieter, a bridge between generations, memory, and hope. Long after the last caravan bell falls silent, its echoes remain in silk threads, spice markets, and stories passed hand to hand. If this journey through Kashgar, Bukhara, and Samarkand moved you, we invite you to walk further roads of history with us. Subscribe, like, and follow our channel, so together we can uncover more untold journeys hidden across the pages of time. Until our next story unfolds, may you carry a little of the Silk Road's quiet, enduring spirit with you.